Thank you so much, Zeke, Shio, and Reese. And here we are into the match number 8. And so far, it's been all Tayson, Mongo, and Mitro with nothing less than a 7th place finish over their first 7 matches, so incredibly well done. But already looking at the mini-map, for the first time in what feels like a long time, there's some other triangles at Stark Industries. So somebody has decided to pony up, somebody has decided to rise to the challenge and be the David to their Goliath over at Stark Industries. We'll be keeping an eye on that elimination feed, but with the Southern Zone 2 right on the edge of that, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Hey, I don't know, man. I've been watching Ghostbusters getting me in the Halloween spirit. You guys released some awesome outfits. And that is a biblical proportion type feat. That is one giant marshmallow man to overcome there. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to bust the bubble of Mongo, Mitro, and Tayson. They are on an unbelievable ride. But one hero that may stand tall, one trio that can get that job done is Kenzel, Wolfies, and CRR. They can make things interesting. And the reason why I say that is because they could pop off with elims as well. And they've been putting it all together. We're getting some placement points, Sundown.
And one thing to note in particular about the last game, you saw how he had the bandage cannon on the low ground, but being out of mats, and when you're in the water, you can't actually fire the bandage against anything. It will go all the way down to the bottom of the water. So despite being on 20 HP, he didn't have anything to kind of mark himself against, as we actually see up in the elimination feed, and Dretta pick up another early elimination there. But also, we saw Lecce end up going down as well. So another one of our power trios over at Doom's Domain struggling a little bit here off of the start. The Dual Media boys giving them everything they can handle so far here on day 2.
And I gotta know, as we seen that Snipe does pick up an elim on Benji, what happened? What went down there in Stark Industry? We gotta see in a moment notice. We'll get that replay up going.
Yeah, and that was Benji's full elim as well. Their trio is down. You keep an eye on that top left corner now, as we're going to see. It's an Thomas HD and Flick. If there's anybody to rise to the challenge and go after these guys, it will be them. You can see Anas already holding on to the elimination. Flick finds Mitro off of the start, and not only that, but the power weapons in their hands. You can see Tayson tries to make a little bit of an escape here, but you know they're going to ride that one down right away. Big white tags coming out there, and Flick, who accounts for 75% of this trio's eliminations pre-round or pre-zone 5, is going to find his second one here, and they're going to wrap up for the first time in this tournament. Tayson, Mitro, and Mongo go down with 0 points. They had never finished lower than 7th place before this, and that was all the way back in the first game. So now, all of a sudden, that battle for 2nd place, everyone else gets that one opportunity to kind of, I believe the technical term is, whoop, shrink that leaderboard gap just a little bit.
Oh man, and that is the story that we have now developing. I took a look at Twitter, okay? I took a look, and Flick, all he tweeted out was a demon emote. That's all, emoji. That's all he tweeted out. Anas, he said, we should have never left. I'm telling you, the problems of switching from their drop spot. They switched from that dirty docks where they were being so strong and so prominent, and they had strong finishes. When they switched to retail row, I just think they noticed that it wasn't enough. They weren't getting their power weapons. They weren't getting all the resources that they need for their playstyle. And now they realize that, hey, man, you know, yeah, you never know. They could pop off. You never know, Sundown.
And we've talked about it before as well with this trio coming through. One, they're incredible in terms of their playmaking ability. Whether it's early or late game, we've seen Flick just kind of let running. They also get a nice little Llama 210 pick up there, some extra mats, extra utility. Not that the Stark Industries team will need it after that fact, but I mean, the playmaking capability. But on the flip side of that, let's talk about kind of the mental check that's now going to put on Mitro, Mongo, and Tayson.
Huge.
Because for this entire competition, they haven't had to worry about sitting there in queues. They haven't had to worry about thinking who's going to come there. They haven't had to game plan something else. They haven't had to prep for somebody to come challenge them. Now, all of a sudden, not only are you eliminated in 30 seconds with 0 points, you have to sit there for half an hour, watch everyone else play outside while you're stuck there in jail. No more games for you back in the lobby. And they're out of that rhythm a little bit. They're a trio who very much kind of rides on that momentum. They're very, very emotional players. When they made the World Cup announcement back in the day, people joked about Mitro and Mongrel being the loudest duo, both for the keyboard clacks and just the way they celebrate when they make their plays. But now that they've been silenced for a second, how do they react?
Tayson will have the biggest challenge of them all. Will Mongrel and Mitro put up that brick wall and not listen to his calls? It's going to be up to Tayson to kind of hold that ship from going capsizing completely. Giannis, Alex, and Xweez, they have an opportunity now to gain some grounds here. They are about 60-plus points away. They're certainly sitting in second place. Another trio that we took a peek in down in Slurpy Swamps was Kinzel, Wolfie, and CR. That opens up the door to gain some ground, but we're talking about a difference of about 2 victory royales and some like close to double-digit elims. That's what's going to be required. And the difference is as well is we still have plenty of games to go, Sundown. We're just barely into the second half here of the grand finals here of the FNCS trios.
And it was starting to feel like it couldn't be overcome because of how consistent they were. There was no hope. There was nobody who wanted to rise up and be the ones to challenge there. However, we've kind of talked about it before. Like, Jaspe and Co., yes, they 50-50'd the chess, but they were relatively successful, and they turned a couple of those late games around. So especially if a top trio comes in with a game plan on how to take those fights, and they come in not necessarily fearing those 3 off of the bat, which they're one of the 3 players who can really genuinely say, like, yeah, let's go fight these guys and maybe come out better than 50-50. Now all of a sudden you're going to think, okay, Mongo really wants to get revenge there, but if they're not, they haven't had to practice this drop being contested through the first 6 or 7 games. Now all of a sudden 8th game they lose it. 9th game, if they lose it again, there's going to be that seed of doubt in there. But right now Razumi trying to get a little bit of doubt on this team, rotating away here, and a little bit of storm tags as they just remain utilizing their soft mats to get some positioning.
And Safik's trio here is looking for a good start here in day 2. Haven't gotten any points at the moment, in 11th place. Safik has been one of our slayers here in the region, picking up 15-plus elims by himself. But speaking of opportunities, opening the door here, it feels like, you know, at Anas, Thomas, Stacey, and Flick have slayed the beast, right? Now all the villagers are going to have a good time to try to claim that castle up there. And Nakos, Clement, and Flokis have an opportunity to storm that castle. They're sitting in 4th place at the moment. They're still about 30 points away, so that is a victory royale. They could definitely do it in one punch, but they could slowly jab their way up their leaderboard, Sundown.
I would say it's probably more equivalent to either scratching the dragon's nose and making him think for a second.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's where he breathes the fire out of, so he's got like a little, it's like, hey, that's some minor discomfort. Yeah. I wasn't ready for that. I'm going to come back in a moment, but like, the villagers are celebrating. They're like, yay, we drove off the beast. Or it's like punching a great white shark in the face. It's like, yeah, you know what? You punched the great white shark in the face, but that shark is still in the water with you. Yeah, you showed that maybe you might be a little bit of a threat, and maybe you can punch back. But he's still there. They still exist. And while they're going to be forced out for just a little second, one, who takes advantage of that opportunity? And 2, what happens when that angry shark, that angry dragon, the poked bear decides to come back in the next match? But right now, we're going to keep on board here with the teams who will have an opportunity to close the gap, because realistically, going into the back 5 of these games, only really the teams in the top 4 or maybe the top 5 can statistically still kind of overtake this route, and it's going to take a large effort. As you see Clement going and doing every little thing right, making sure they maximize on the utility here, going all the way out and picking up that second big pot, and then going to rotate back up the zone.
You know, I know the Halloween party is over and all that spooky scariness, but I've always learned to double tap. You always got to double tap and make sure that monster is down. And that's what Flick, Thomas, and Nos, they're going to have to double tap that down if they're going to keep Mongrel's trio at bay. So, Mongrel trio is out. Now let's just focus in on who is in and who has the opportunity to go up the leaderboard. And if you're questioning anybody out there, like, why would Thomas and Nas and Flick do that? Because they're slipping down the leaderboard. They start off the day with 15. They're going down to 17. Having Stark, that strong POI in their back pocket now, could enable them to get up their leaderboard and secure themselves thousands of dollars. All of it is on the line.
And people are going to say, oh, why would they go and grief the top trio like that? And to my response to that, are you crazy? Are you crazy? They're competing to try and be the absolute top mark.
Yes.
And if this is a trio who is more than capable of winning games, especially when you see Thomas and Anas enabled with shockwaves. That's kind of what you really need to take away. They have to have a reliable way of getting the late game utility. That's how they've won their games. And if you can go Stark and guarantee that, yes, you have to fight one of the best teams in the entire game to get them. But if you want to win, you have to beat those guys anyway. And they finally said enough is enough. And if you're going to post your spot on Twitter, if you're going to talk about how you're so good at defending this spot, you better have a game plan and you better back it up. Because anybody has the opportunity to land anywhere. This is Fortnite Battle Royale. And if a team gives you a hard enough time, you need to game plan better and find a way to deal with it.
And that is what we call preach right then and there, Sundown. Now we're on board here with the BDS Robots. They got a victory royale here. They were able to have a very nice aggressive play. They kind of took the textbook of fighting on the low ground, doing really well, and they got a victory royale. So one of the few teams that have a victory royale, because Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson have 3 victory royales. Yanis Trio has 1 victory royale. Kenzel's Trio has 1, and as well, Gamma's Cammy's Trio has 1 as well. Cammy and Co. So those are the stories that are unfolding here. And the great thing is, you know, we can speculate all you want, but it is the competitors themselves that answers the questions. And that is what we're watching here as the drama unfolds. And the drama will pick up for Wolfies and CRR, considering Kenzel, the back-to-back DreamHack champion, goes down. And Kenzel is just like just like Tayson for this trio. He kind of holds it all together, considering that in DreamHack it's a very placement-heavy format, and having that ability to kind of slow pace, passively, aggressively at times whenever you needed to get your way further into in-game, that's going to help off people like CRR Wolfies, who are known to be great opens box fighter players.
But right now, we're keeping an eye on that Storm Surge threshold on the right-hand side, just above the map. We talked about them being below it. Well, the key snipe there coming from that World Cup runner-up there, the young controller player from England. Wolfie's finding a great tag and a sneaky little bullet in there onto Kira through the window, just like a true sniper would. Well done to put himself above. And we talk about the little moments. That moment is so much bigger than just the 1 point on the elimination. Shedding themselves of that Storm Surge threat is going to be massive in terms of just getting positioning. As we've seen, atypical compared to what we've seen in Europe so far. There's been more and more Storm Surge pressure, and coming into Grand Finals, no team had more Elans versus Mongrels trio than Flicks, and a part of that has to do with the rotation path. They're always coming out of the east and passing that Stark Industries, and also, man, just pound for pound, they're one of the few trios who actual wall-to-wall matches up with those guys. And when we talk about kind of wall-to-wall, that's when you're in a box against somebody and not necessarily in the same space, but owning 1 or 2 walls in between you guys. These guys execute on those fights almost better than anyone in Europe.
And Thomas is a superstar, had a great run in heats. Anas and Flick are right behind him as well. They're forming a very strong trio. Thomas HG had some Twitter barbs with Zexero from NA East. Thomas HG was talking about, hey, who could come over here from NA East and compete? Should I go over there? It's so interesting. We all wish we had a World Cup Part 2. Like I said, sometimes the sequels are better than the originals. We all wish that. We all wish we'd be able to settle the great debate of EU versus NA. And don't forget about the Latin American. Don't forget about the Asia. Don't forget about OCE. We're talking about Fortnite, baby, worldwide. Some of the best competitors all throwing down, and it's all happening here in this amazing month here. I cannot wait to see who's going to walk away champion here for EU, and I cannot wait to see who's going to walk away for champion in NA East, so the debate's going to kick up back up again.
You can see right now we're hopping on board here with that second place team on the leaderboard, who's going to try and take advantage of that opportunity to shrink that leaderboard and shrink the lead of that top trio. But I'm glad you mentioned something about Latin America, because if there's an international land, we've seen just how good King can be in those circumstances. But right now, all the focus is on Europe, as Xqueeze, aka MCES, duck on top there, finds a nice little knock and some key shots on players trying to rotate in. Now, this positioning, we've talked about it time and time before, it's called the gatekeeping position. When you're in the safe zone and pressuring players who have the zone at their back, who are either already into it and need to make it into the new safe zone. And it's where a lot of teams who had the foresight to rotate earlier are able to get key opportunities to pick up eliminations. And you can see right now, Duck on top doing a great job spraying down shots there, having control of the pieces in the area, and now trying to locate where that weak member is.
And we're seeing already the rest of the lobby, seems to heating up at the right moment. Hen picks up a knock right there in the Elam feed, so that's going to be huge for them. Now that we know that the big monsters are out of the game, that's just going to make everyone play a little bit more loose. It's like all of a sudden the parents are not watching it anymore. The kids are going to run rambunctious. The Rugrats are going to do what they do best, and that's going to be an opportunity that they have to capitalize. You're going to have a big pop-up game here if you're Analyx, Xweez, and Giannis, if you want an opportunity to get that first place. And I mean, we're all going to have to keep an eye on. We talked about moments leading to bigger moments, and that moment of the opening engagement from Thomas, Flick, and Anas getting out Mongrel is causing so much waves throughout the entire time. And look at that. Analyx, Giannis have someone on the ropes in that back half. Let's take a look at the overall picture here and see who's going to have a strong position going forward. This is going to be a very interesting in-game, considering we have a lot of water and Lazy Lake POI in the distance.
And right now, you can see Wolfie's CRR not having to move, just still perched up on top of the building. Lanouf, Moraine, Jaspe, the other team who had originally contested over at Stark Industries, but not brave enough to go over there in the grand finals, posted up. Getting a nice 360 view here. Shout out to the observers, by the way. They've done a great job catching all of the action and giving us some of these beautiful shots. So you see a nice little double ramp rush coming out from our second place team. That to me indicates that that fourth zone was revealed, and they're going to try and get priority over that entire western side, and a good push from them there. As we see Floki also pick up an elimination onto Swag. So the French trio continuing their tradition of picking up more elims than normal in the mid game, as Andalex in another one of those gatekeeping positions here, priority high zone. And I mean, the reason they're packed around the outside is that fourth circle. So we have half in, half out right after this.
And this is a strong gatekeeping opportunity. The only danger they risk is getting sniped, returned. And that kind of return to sender type lethality is going to be so dangerous to deal with. But they're sitting good. They're covering angles. And someone kind of almost out of nowhere, kind of peekaboo, Jack in the Box, took a shotgun blast for Analyx and kind of woke him up for a brief moment. You got to be careful here. You have those edits open. The greed sets in. And we've been seeing time again, Benji gets sniped in the back various times. We saw a highlight where Thomas HD was able to sneak up on him, and they had a harpoon snipe play. Hey, that greed could catch up to you. You have to be sure that you have all your angles covered before you move on. But look at this, Sundown, a max rotation pull, and this is going to be tough for Analyx, Giannis, and Xweez, considering that there's a lot of people in their way for making this rotation.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Okay, I was just about to say, trying to see who has shockwaves on that side, because they're going to be using it right away. Because if you go too late, everyone else on that side will have already built up on the high ground and be turning around. So you need to kind of time it with other teams, so there's a plethora of targets going through the air, and you don't end up just getting swatted down like a clay pigeon. But right now, Xweez and Andalex instead opting to stay up on their high ground, and they're going to pick up Patrick and Deceptos, leaving Hen all by himself there. We're also now rotating into the first round of placement points. 18 trios remaining, so one more will need to fall. Then every single trio that drops will be a singular point. Wolfies picks up a huge knock there onto Clement, indicating they're also making a rotation towards kind of that central zone. Everybody already posted up in Lazy Lake is more than happy and keeping an eye on the Elam feed. Janice gets knocked there as well. So our top four trios facing a little bit of adversity, but who's capitalizing on the opportunity right now? It's the team who took the situations by the horns. Thomas HD and Co. grabbing some elims. We're going to hop back on board here with Nate, Smash Dave, and Bobo. Exalti, our wild card team, trying to find some more rifle elims on the side.
Rojo's team going into the day or top 10. They kind of slipped a little bit there, and they're trying to find their footing in 12th place. This is a strong opportunity. You had basically the lowest of chances to get into the grand finals, and you were one of the ones that came out on top in a wild card finish. And they're just proving the point how strong the EU region is. The 33rd team is now sitting in a top 15 situation. Now we're going to kind of pull back. Let's take a look. We already know that actually Wolfie's spot get taken out by Flick's trio. So now we're going to take a look here, as now the first 6 full rotating circle is revealed, and Exalti, Nate, and Rojo get that prime priority position.
And that's the benefit of going early with the utility. They're going to be able to go before anybody else identifies the opportunity to. Keeping an eye on the top left, Thomas HD and Co. still rattling off the eliminations and making their push further up into the money, taking advantage of the opportunity they made for themselves. It's a breaching charge up the leaderboard, but right there, Bobo finding a great shot and good conversion onto Matzo that Rojo's going to be able to pick up. Hen still on his feet, trying to do it 1v3 style like he's used to. Steelix finding CRR in the feed as well, but Bobo just trying to find a little bit of room here on the low ground. Sees his teammates are a couple levels above him, should be looking to rejoin them, as now we're going to flip on over to the side of the zone, get a wide shot there to see everyone trying to rotate and get in front so they can then about face on the rest of the lobby. And our second place trio is still up on their feet, but it's just in a duo form, as Floki is also going to get knocked. It's all going to be on Nakos now for our fourth place trio, as the first placement points will take over. Every trio up, beginning 1 point, but still 40 players remaining, 9 of which are under Storm Surge. Our fourth place trio going down. Second place trio also getting knocked here, as Nate, Dave, and Bobo are continuing to just be on the front priority of the zone. Hen doing his best solo ranger impression, picking up another knock, but right now all about priority, as these guys are going to begin to find picks.
We're going to see a new name at Hype very shortly, considering Mongo Trios is out. They went out at the very beginning. This is the wild card on the low ground, working as a unit, doing really well. They're trying to find space control. They don't have much of it, considering there's a lot of enemy builds, but they're going on the Storm side of things, so they're going to be able to save as much as possible. A nice pickup by Nate right there is going to go back into the Storm to pick up those valuable loot. Now we're going to get a point and see and look at who's at the mid ground, who's at second height, who is at the low ground. It looks like Nate Exalti, actually Bobo going down. So it's going to be Nate to Rojo right now. And Rojo is really low. So all of it's going to be back time for Nate, considering that he has a strong power weapon. He has some crash pads, so he can cause some destruction. And now Nate is going solo dolo. Steely picks up an Elim. Hitsy picks up an Elim. And Steely, and Hen picks up a knock. And Hen is still up, and Nate picks up an Elim. Everybody's trying to capitalize that, knowing that the big dogs are out of this match here, Sundown.
And Hen finally going down the solo run into the top 10, but Nate says, I'm Mr. Solo Dolo himself. Crash pad up on the high ground, gets Antarak, and we saw SLQ had a brilliant kind of tactical performance yesterday, hiding in the tree there for their second place. So some high ground control, but again, textbook from the top down. When they're given the power position, they're taking advantage and trying to storm up the leaderboard. Thomas HD flicking it off on the high ground, and nothing to do now.
And Sweeze is out, so that is the second place team going down, getting eliminated. This is Thomas and Anas and Flick's world to be able to bolt themselves up their leaderboard. This is the strong opportunity to do so. They already have, look at that, double-digit Elims, 11 Elims. This is going to be such a strong game from this trio, and now we're in a top 4 situation. And Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD has initiated the spread, the split, the deadly split that a trio could initiate and rack up a lot of Elims and cause disruption. And Flick has those crash pads as well. He's going to be able to throw them down and cause more disruption on the low ground.
But I want to see them execute and close out this game. Too many times during the qualifiers, they'll be in this position and it'll slip away in the final moment. And if they want to put themselves in the money, if they want to unseat Mitro, Mongo, and Taston all the way, not just from the landing spot, but from a miraculous run and unseat them at the top, they have to get all the Elims in the victory run out. Nos finding Flois in the side. Thomas making sure he's all the way up on height, and he has a shockwave to also throw down on the low ground. Gonna continue with the crash pads, sends up Anas, but Flick goes down. They're going to put the heals onto Thomas, and then Anas is going to go down and try and close out the match. Challenge comes up, and a big 75 tag coming through. Here's the thing. Anas is down 1v3, but the tick is going to end up coming over. Centric is in the zone. He has the healing pads, and Thomas HD clutches it up there. Well done, Louis, going down in 15 eliminations.
That was awesome. Unbelievable. It is grand finals. It is hype.